Cinema's most unforgettable moments are crafted through masterful combinations of editing, sound, camera work, and visual storytelling. These techniques transform ordinary scenes into cultural touchstones that resonate across generations. We will explore 7 legendary sequences and decode the filmmaking magic that makes them work. This show is brought to you by the Series of Thoughts team as part of their film studies program. Great filmmakers push the boundaries, inventing new techniques or repurposing old ones. The best techniques deepen our emotional connection to the story, amplifying feelings like fear or wonder. When technique and story perfectly align, scenes transcend their films, becoming part of our collective consciousness and influencing others. We begin with Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho from 1960 and the infamous shower scene. Hitchcock used rapid editing, assembling over 70 cuts in less than a minute. This fragmentation mirrors the victim's panic and prevents spatial orientation, creating psychological terror. The rapid cuts transform the violence into pure sensation, triggering an instinctive fear response in the viewer. Bernard Herrmann's iconic score, The Screeching Violin Stabs, mimics the knife's motion, creating an auditory assault. This synchronization proves how sound can amplify visual information, making implied action feel brutally real. The scene's power relies heavily on this soundtrack, highlighting cinema as a multisensory medium. Hitchcock never shows the knife penetrating flesh. The violence is implied through editing and sound, forcing the audience to complete the horror in their imagination. Working within censorship limits, this restraint created a scene that remains shocking because it exploits universal terror. Next, we examine another Hitchcock masterpiece, North by Northwest from 1959, and the crop duster attack. Hitchcock subverted expectations by staging the suspense sequence in a bright, flat, featureless cornfield. Audiences expect danger and darkness, but placing the protagonist in open terrain with nowhere to hide creates the terror of exposure. This teaches filmmakers that surprise comes from violating genre conventions. Wide shots dwarf the character against the endless fields, establishing his vulnerability and emphasizing helplessness. This use of scale forces the audience to actively scan the frame for threats, building intense anticipation before the attack begins. The minimal soundscape relies on strategic silence, only wind and distant sound, forcing intense focus on the visuals. This void builds internal tension. When the crop duster finally appears, its engine noise shatters the quiet, demonstrating how silence can be weaponized for maximum psychological impact. Moving to the modern era, let's explore The Matrix from 1999 and the bullet time revolution. Bullet time was achieved using over 100 still cameras in a circular array, timed to fire in sequence. Sophisticated software filled the gaps between positions, creating the illusion of a camera rotating around frozen action. This blend of practical and digital techniques was groundbreaking for its time. Bullet time is a narrative tool that visualizes superhuman perception. When Neo dodges bullets, we experience his heightened awareness. This makes abstract concepts concrete, using cinematic language to communicate his growing powers effectively. The technique symbolically contrasts linear human time with machine perception. Bullet time shows us breaking free from physical constraints, allowing us to see the Matrix's code. This innovation defined turn-of-the-millennium action cinema. Our fourth iconic scene is the beach attack from Steven Spielberg's Jaws in 1975. Spielberg employed the dolly zoom or vertigo effect. The camera moves forward while zooming out, keeping the subject size constant, but unnaturally compressing the background. This distortion of perspective creates instant, visceral anxiety, externalizing Chief Brody's internal shock as he realizes the attack. Frequent point of view, or POV, shots from below look up at the swimmer's dangling legs. By sharing the predator's gaze, Spielberg makes us complicit, creating moral discomfort alongside fear. These shots use dramatic irony to build suspense, as the audience knows danger lurks below. The sound design relies on contrast. Peaceful beach sounds lull us into complacency. Then a moment of silence and the dolly zoom signal recognition and horror. Finally, the sonic landscape explodes with screaming and chaos. This contrast makes the sudden violence deeply traumatic. Next, we analyze the use of editing in Lawrence of Arabia, 1962, focusing on the match cut to the desert. David Lean's celebrated match cut dissolves a small flame into the blazing desert sun. The similar circular shape makes the transition seamless. However, the contrast in scale leaps us from mundane bureaucracy to the epic Arabian sands, communicating character journey and emotional shift in one cut. This editing brilliance achieves a temporal leap and geographic shift, bridging weeks and thousands of miles instantly. The cut also symbolizes Lawrence's transformation from small flame to burning sun, moving from confined spaces to limitless horizons. The match cut establishes the film's central tension, a man's ambition against the vast indifference of nature. It simultaneously communicates complex ideas without words, proving that pure visual language can achieve multiple narrative goals. Our sixth scene is the rotating hallway fight from Christopher Nolan's Inception 2010. Nolan used practical effects by building a massive, functional hallway mounted on a gimbal that rotated 360 degrees. The actors performed stunts in real shifting gravity, which ensured genuine spatial confusion. This authenticity translated to a more convincing and visceral experience for the audience. The scene visualizes dream logic. The rotation happens because a van in the dream level above is tumbling. Instead of using dialogue, Nolan shows us the physics of the dream. The practical effect grounds this surreal concept, making the impossible more believable than CGI might have. This sequence demanded precise choreography timed to gravity shifts, with the camera rotating alongside the set. The result is a fight that feels both grounded and impossible. It is the gold standard for using practical stunt work to create high-impact, memorable surrealism. Finally, we analyze a moment of pure romantic crescendo, the "I'm the King of the World" scene from Titanic 1997. Cameron's compositional framing places Jack and Rose at the bow, against the massive ocean and sky. This wide shot emphasizes the ship's scale, while making the protagonists the emotional focus. It suggests freedom and possibility, but also foreshadows nature's ultimate supremacy. James Horner's score acts as an emotional amplifier, swelling precisely with Jack's declaration. The music builds anticipation and transforms the simple gesture into an emotional climax, connecting individual romance to universal longing. It achieves maximum exhilaration and embeds tragic foreshadowing. Jack's declaration is exuberant, but Cameron ensures we recognize the dramatic irony. The scene embodies human hubris just before tragedy strikes the quote, unsinkable ship. The symbolism delivers immediate emotional joy while carrying deeper meaning upon subsequent viewings. These iconic scenes succeed because their core techniques serve the narrative. Rapid editing creates terror, open space creates suspense, practical rotation makes dream physics tangible. Each master filmmaker chose a visual strategy that maximized emotional or psychological impact. Filmmakers must navigate trade-offs. Innovation must serve the story, or it becomes a distraction. Groundbreaking techniques also have an expiration date as audiences grow sophisticated. Practical effects, though costly, often age better than CGI, presenting a constant economic challenge. Limitations can force innovation, as Spielberg proved with the malfunctioning shark. However, modern blockbusters often prioritize spectacle and digital solutions due to budget and time pressures. Creative vision requires clout to overcome financial gatekeeping and push for ambitious technical experiments. The lesson from these masters is that technique must always serve story and emotional truth. Constraints breed creativity. Aim for timeless impact grounded in human psychology rather than technological gimmicks. Learn the visual strategies that externalize internal states or elegantly compress information. As technology evolves, the fundamental challenge remains: how to use tools for emotionally resonant stories. Iconic scenes endure because technique and narrative fuse perfectly. The next generation of masterpieces will emerge when new tools honor timeless principles. Technology changes, but human emotion doesn't.